This is what I hope is a short video on how to install WebSphere Application Server 8.5.5 to use with the JAS Team Server. I've already installed both the DB2 10.0 and the IBM Installation Manager. So the next thing I'm going to do is go to jas.net, download the WebSphere Application Server to install. If you already have access to WebSphere from your Passport Advantage, it probably is fine to use. It's best to use that, but sometimes you don't. So you can go to the JAS site under the Team Concert 5, go to Optional Programs, and the WebSphere server is there. Now it says, it will say that it's the trial server, but it's a full copy of the server, and you have a license to use that version. With each copy of the JAS tools that you own. So when you get to that site, select the WebSphere Application Server Trial, and it's going to ask you to log into your DeveloperWorks account. And if you don't have one, you can get one. I believe it's free to sign in. Once you sign into DeveloperWorks, it will take you to the WebSphere site. Now, before you fill all this stuff in, go over to the left and use the alternate download site, because what you want to do is download the files for use with Installation Manager. You don't want to, or I don't install from the Installation Manager and actually go to the server to install. So the information is, I'm just educating myself. I have no decision-making process with anybody. I'm an IBM person. I don't really want any contact other than this, so I'm going to deselect the others. You can leave that if you want, and then just agree to the terms of the software. Once you've done that, it will take you to the download site. Now, on the download site, I use HTTP only because I don't have the Java, the required Java applications or toolkit, whatever, to run the installation or the download director on this particular image. So scroll down, and there's 3 files. There we go. IBM WebSphere Application Server Full Profile. You want to download each one of those. So once you start downloading, you want to save the file. Once that starts, click the next one. You can get them done in parallel. Edit, and then the third one. And save the file. Now these will say I'm going to delete that or close that because I had another one open for some reason. Alright, so we've got all 3 files downloading right now. When those are downloaded, we'll come back and we'll look at that. Right now I'm going to pause this just so I can have a shorter video. Alright, so that's done. I'm going to clear this now because I put so many things on it. Alright, and we're done with the download now. At this point, we'll go back to our downloads directory. And we'll just extract them right here because we're going to delete them anyway in a few minutes. Move that out of the way. And as soon as they're done, we'll go ahead and we'll start installing the software. Now that the files have been extracted, we're going to go ahead and we're going to add this repository config to the installation manager. Now I know that my installation manager is actually one version older, so it's probably going to ask me to go ahead and upgrade that, and I'll do that. We'll go to Preferences. We'll add the repository. And we'll hit OK. Now I can go to Install. And as we thought, it's asking me to upgrade my installation manager. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to go ahead and just close all these windows because I don't like windows open for no reason. And now we'll click on Install. And we'll select WAS855 Application Server. Agree to the terms. And I go ahead and make sure that all the IBM stuff is in the IBM folder. Mainly because it helps me later when I'm setting other stuff up. I can just refer back to IBM instead of going through the program files, utility thing, because it doesn't like spaces and all that. I just leave this as the default. You might not need all of that, and frankly, I don't know what all of it really is necessary for, but it's default. It now asks me where the files are. Because I only put the first disk in, I gotta go ahead and scroll to the other downloads and tell it where those disks are. And the third disk. And it goes and it identifies all the files and where they are, and it then allows you to install it. I'm gonna pause this again. Okay, now that it's finished installing, we'll go ahead and let it open the Profile Management tool. We can actually delete or close that installation window to keep the screen clear. Now the profile window, you only need to keep it open long enough to create the profile, and it's pretty much the defaults. We want an application server profile, not a management profile. We're not going to install the web server. The application server is all you need, and a typical profile creation is fine because we don't need to rename anything. Now, if you want to create a password for the administrator account, you can do that. I'm not going to do it because it's just an extra password to have to remember, and I'm working on a VM, and the server itself has a password, but you can put one in there if you want. I'm going to go ahead and turn it off. And then I'm going to go ahead and let it create its the default profile. Once the installation completes, you go ahead and launch the First Steps console. Click Finish. Again, to keep the screen clear, we can go ahead and close this because you're not going to need this anymore. And you can either do the installation verification or go ahead and start the server. I go ahead and do the verification just to make sure nothing major is going on. It usually comes up with a couple of squirrely little errors. I don't know what causes those, but as long as it starts the server and says that it's up and ready for business, then it's fine. So the startup is completed. And note we only have a couple of errors that have shown up in WebSphere. One regarding the key store. Having the default password. We can change that if we want, but again, it doesn't really matter. Thread pool settings on the object request broker service is deprecated. I don't know what that means. I've seen that in most installations I've done, and I've never seen it cause a problem. So we're probably good right now. So we'll go ahead and close that out. And again, note that the server has been started. So our WebSphere portion, or our WebSphere installation, is fine. Now the next video we put together will be all about how to configure the JAS server using WebSphere.